My family laughed in my face when I risked everything for my dream. They tried to take everything away from me when they found out how much money I made, begging me for help at first. I broke free despite their pleas for help. In the gray twilight of an ordinary Ohio evening, I found myself staring blankly at the drab walls of the small shopping mall where I'd spent years working. Every day felt like a monotonous loop, waking up with the same heavy feeling, trudging through a job that drained my soul, and returning to a life that offered little promise. The suffocating routine had become my silent prison, and each passing moment whispered of a future unfulfilled. I began to question the path I was on. Was this really the sum of my days? Amidst the hum of fluorescent lights and the clatter of daily tasks, an ember of possibility ignited within me. I envisioned a vibrant life where my passion could finally find expression, a realm where digital marketing and creativity merged to forge a new destiny. That night, as the last vestiges of daylight faded into a cascade of inky shadows, I resolved to abandon the predictable and step boldly into uncertainty. I scribbled down the first outlines of an online project that promised a radical transformation, both of my career and my very existence. This was not merely a whim, it was the fateful decision that would redefine my life, marking the moment when fear bowed to the irresistible call of a more authentic future. In Brooklyn, the city's relentless energy became both a backdrop and a catalyst for my transformation. I moved into a modest, time-worn apartment where peeling wallpaper and creaking floors narrated their own stories of endurance. Every dawn, as the soft gray light seeped through the narrow window, I awoke with a powerful mantra: today is my day. This declaration echoed in the quiet of my humble abode and fueled my ambition. The stark contrast between Brooklyn's vibrant pulse and my previous life in Ohio was overwhelming, yet invigorating. Each morning, the city's rhythmic buzz, distant sirens, murmuring crowds, and the constant hum of activity reminded me that I was now immersed in a world where dreams were pursued with relentless vigor. Despite the initial isolation of unfamiliar streets and faces, I embraced every challenge as a lesson. I dove headfirst into digital marketing, determined to master its intricacies. Every subway ride, every passing glance on the busy sidewalks became a fragment of wisdom, a vivid reminder that change, no matter how daunting, was not only possible but essential for growth. At a family dinner in a cramped dining room that reeked of nostalgia and skepticism, the air thickened with tension as my relatives gathered around the table. My mother, Diane, her eyes flickering between concern and derision, started the barrage with a soft, biting tone. "Alex, you're always chasing fantasies," she said, her words laced with disappointment. My father, Arthur, nodded slowly, his voice heavy with doubt. "How do you expect to succeed when you can't even keep your room tidy?" The comment, trivial on the surface, struck me like a slap. My older brother, Michael, joined in, his tone mocking and cold. "Business? That's just a fancy way of saying you want to play with numbers." Their laughter was not lighthearted. It was the sound of shattering hope. Every word, every dismissive glance deepened the chasm between their expectations and my aspirations. In that moment, I felt the weight of their disbelief, a stark reminder that the path to reinvention was marred by familial resistance. Their unwillingness to understand the audacity of my dreams left me both angry and more determined than ever to prove that my vision was not merely a childish fantasy, but a bold new beginning. In the silent hours of the night, I found myself locked in a relentless battle against technical challenges and creeping doubts. I spent countless evenings poring over SEO manuals and online tutorials, desperately trying to decipher the intricate algorithms that promised to elevate my fledgling digital venture. Each new advertising campaign felt like a leap into the unknown. Every misstep and error message, a stark reminder of the vast gap between my ambitions and my current skills. The financial strain was palpable too. I often substituted hearty dinners for meager, budget-friendly meals from a nearby kiosk. These humble bites of sustenance served as constant reminders of the personal sacrifices demanded by my newfound path. In the solitude of my cramped apartment, loneliness crept in like an unwelcome shadow, and every failed attempt whispered doubts about the viability of my dream. Yet, paradoxically, the harsh criticisms from my family only stoked my resolve further. Their dismissive remarks fueled a burning determination within me, turning each setback into a stepping stone. Amid the isolation and uncertainty, I gradually began to understand that every challenge was a crucible, one that would forge not just a successful project, but also an unbreakable spirit committed to redefining my destiny. One crisp morning, after endless nights fueled by determination and sacrifice, I sat before my computer in a haze of sleep and anticipation. As I opened the latest report, my eyes widened in disbelief. There, displayed in stark, bold figures, was the unmistakable proof of my efforts. My fledgling project had surged into a six-figure revenue milestone. In that singular moment, the relentless grind of mastering SEO strategies, juggling late-night troubleshooting, and forgoing many comforts transformed into tangible success. The numbers danced on the screen like a triumphant symphony, resonating with every sleepless hour and every ounce of courage I had invested. It was as if the universe had finally acknowledged the risk I took by leaving behind a predictable life in Ohio for the uncharted territories of Brooklyn. The victory was not just monetary, it was the first true affirmation that my vision and persistence could triumph over doubt and familial discouragement. With this breakthrough, I felt an exhilarating rush of vindication and possibility. The weight of past criticisms melted away, replaced by an unwavering confidence that I was capable of building a future on my own terms, free from the constraints of a life that had once suffocated my dreams. Late one autumn afternoon, my phone buzzed insistently, shattering the calm after my recent triumph. The call was from my parents, their voices tight with an urgency that bordered on desperation. They explained with measured tones and rehearsed concern that they were planning to renovate an old family house on the outskirts of Columbia, a house laden with memories and, according to them, in dire need of repair. The price tag was a staggering $25,000. At first I listened, a sense of disbelief mingling with an unsettling intuition. The request felt less like genuine need and more like an attempt to tether me to a past I had long since outgrown. Their words, though softly spoken, carried an unmistakable undercurrent, a plea for me to relinquish the hard-won freedom of my new life and return to a cocoon of familial expectations. Every syllable seemed loaded with a silent demand to surrender my independence, my painstakingly built dream, for the sake of tradition. As the conversation lingered, I realized that this was no ordinary plea for help. It was an intricate maneuver to reel me back into the familiar orbit of their control. Standing at the precipice of a hard choice, I felt the tension coiling within me, preparing to confront the boundaries between love, obligation, and self-determination. That fateful night, the door to my Brooklyn apartment burst open with an urgency I hadn't anticipated. Rain hammered against the windows as my mother, Diane, my father, Arthur, and my older brother, Michael, stormed in, their faces etched with a mix of anger and desperation. They didn't come for a cordial conversation. They came armed with the weight of family expectations and a barrage of unspoken accusations. Their eyes, filled with disappointment and betrayal, met mine without mercy. In the charged silence that followed, their words cascaded like a torrent of reproach. Accusations of ingratitude, neglect, and a complete abandonment of our shared history. Each remark stung as if it were a carefully aimed arrow, meant to pierce the armor I had painstakingly built around my new life. The unexpected intrusion, this dramatic invasion of my safe space, left me momentarily disoriented. It was not just a visit. It was a confrontation that challenged everything I had worked for. demanding that I yield to an invisible, suffocating obligation. Standing amid the chaos of clashing worlds, I felt both the heat of their fury and the chill of my own isolation, as the storm outside mirrored the turmoil within. In the quiet aftermath of that stormy confrontation, I retreated into the solitude of my small Brooklyn apartment, where the only sound was the steady rhythm of rain on the windowpane. Alone with my thoughts, I knew that this was the moment of irrevocable change, the moment when I had to choose between the chains of familial expectations and the liberation of a life built on my own terms. In the dim light of early dawn, I sat at my worn desk and began to write a long, impassioned letter. Every word was a catharsis, a raw confession of the pain I'd endured in silence, the relentless sacrifice, the loneliness of countless nights, and the relentless effort to build something meaningful from nothing. I recounted my journey with unwavering honesty, admitting the moments of doubt alongside the fierce determination that kept me moving forward. This letter was not just an explanation, it was a declaration of independence, a farewell to a past that no longer served me. With each sentence, I dismantled the expectations that had held me captive for so long. When I finally sealed the envelope, a serene resolve filled me, a silent vow that from now on, my life would be governed solely by my own dreams, no matter the cost. In the weeks following that cathartic night, I felt a profound shift in my inner landscape. The turbulent echoes of familial demands began to fade, replaced by the gentle hum of newfound purpose. I threw myself into building a future defined solely by my own choices. Every morning, as the city stirred awake, I wandered the vibrant streets of Brooklyn, absorbing its raw energy and eclectic stories. I began connecting with a diverse community of digital entrepreneurs, individuals whose struggles and triumphs mirrored my own. Late-night conversations over steaming cups of coffee led to unexpected collaborations and inspired ideas that expanded my digital venture beyond what I had ever imagined. I also discovered the liberating art of self-reflection. Journaling my thoughts and goals became a nightly ritual, a silent pact with myself to honor my dreams despite past betrayals. The sting of rejection from those who once claimed to love me gradually transformed into a quiet strength. With each new project milestone and every heartfelt conversation with kindred spirits, I reclaimed pieces of my identity that had been lost in the shadows of doubt. Now, as I stand on the threshold of an uncharted tomorrow, I am buoyed by the certainty that the price of authenticity is high, but its reward is a life lived in unyielding freedom.